Hey y'all, I'm Kayla and welcome back to Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks. Today we're diving into some elements of public safety that you might not think about every day, but they absolutely impact your business. We're joined by Bryce Barrett, Public Information Officer for White County Public Safety, to talk about emergency management, EMS, ecotourism rescues, and how all of it works together to keep our community and our economy running smoothly. So grab your favorite cup of coffee and let's get started.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks. We're here with Bryce Barrett, our Public Information Officer. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Public Information Officer. It's so fancy. I love it.
Yeah. I get called Officer Barrett all the time. So.
Oh! Like, I think you should... Do you have a gun?
No.
I'm gonna listen.
They don't trust me with
Rick Kelly. This boy needs a gun. No, I'm just
I always say I'm not mean enough to be law enforcement, so... That's why I work for public safety.
So a different kind of officer.
Different kind. So Bryce, thanks for joining us. You are the keeper of all information for the county, so he is our absolute go-to, right, when we want to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank y'all for having me. I've actually watched a couple of these podcasts, and I appreciate what y'all are doing, sharing what's happening in Cleveland, all the development and stuff, and for a young person that sees a career here in Cleveland, I do appreciate that. And what y'all do here.
Love it. That's why we do the podcast. So love it.
Well, let's just jump right in because we got a lot to talk about, and we got to get it done in 15 minutes because that's what we promised.
Because you got to go back to work.
Yeah.
Yep. Coffee breaks only last so long. So, so we'll just jump right in, and we've had a lot of severe weather recently. And those natural disasters can really disrupt business operations. We've had tornadoes here, we've had flooding here, and things like that. Over the past year, we've seen across our state, our friends in South Georgia had just a terrible time with tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that. Wildfires. Yeah. We were in Florida. There was a wildfire. It's just terrible. Mm-hmm. How does your team help businesses prepare and respond to these situations?
Yeah, so I think that comes back to a lot of the public education stuff that we do. As far as like plans that we have in place, we have our local emergency operations plan. And so what that does is it kind of streamlines emergency response across White County. So that includes, our LEOP is for not only the county but the cities. And that kind of helps all of our emergency responders being on the same page. But as far as businesses, we have different educational things, and we preach situational awareness all the time. Know what's going on, know what's coming. Reach out to our office, get to know us. That way, we can build that. If it's a public-private relationship there, that partnership. Just be situationally aware, know what's going on, know how to prepare, and follow us on Facebook.
Right. We get a lot of information from you. Mm-hmm. We've talked about several other things like weather radios. I know y'all picked up some extra weather radios through a grant that you'll be able to share.
Those are being delivered today, actually.
Oh, look at that.
3 pallets of them.
Oh, wow.
And so what other ways are you working to help prepare disaster mitigation plans?
Yes, so we have different businesses reach out all the time, wanting CPR training, weather preparedness training. So we'll go talk to businesses, and it's not just businesses. It may be community groups, like the Eagles program at the Methodist Church in Saltine. We go once a year and do classes for them. But then you also have our fire service. We have our inspections division program. Making sure that buildings are up to NFPA compliance and all that. And then, like I said, our LEOP.
You have to explain to us. Yeah, everybody has their own.
Yeah, so
we have our own version of alphabet soup, so I know
it's
y'all
our
do too.
local emergency operations plan.
Okay.
And so Annex 2 under that plan is agency-specific plan. So if a business has, I know we were working with Camp Coleman and Camp Barney up 129, and they sent us their emergency plan. So say something were to happen, we have, their plan compared to our plan, and we're, singing off the same sheet of music.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's communication.
Right, it is. And before it happens, because in the moment it's too late.
Yeah.
It's just too
and
late.
build the relationships, like I was
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
with us, and make sure you know us and we know you ahead of time.
That's what, in our episode with Chief Jeff Shoemaker, that's what he was talking about too. You know, you don't want the first time to meet your police force be the time when something really bad has happened. Especially as a business owner, if something bad has happened to your business, you should not. That's not the first introduction.
Well,
And they're so sweet. Y'all go meet them. Go drop by your fire department and
Absolutely.
meet your firefighter.
Absolutely, y'all rode on the engine
I know.
a couple weeks ago
It was so fun.
for your.
That was like probably my
Tuesday.
favorite Try It Tuesday
Yeah.
ever. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to actually like go on a real call was cool.
Y'all did.
I was like, okay, I
Yep,
guess we're going.
We're going.
Yeah, I kind of was like, oh, you know, I don't know if we'll get to go. And then
The
Matt was like-
firefighter's kid over here is going, oh, it's whatever. And I'm going,
well, I just didn't know if we were going to like actually get to go on one or not. And then Matt's like,
It's home
that's
stretch.
us. And we were like, oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the, building the relationships, what y'all do for the business block party at Freedom Park.
Right.
That's huge for us. Just
Yeah.
being in front of people, even like, letting little kids see the engine and all that.
every
But-
little kid loves a fire truck. They just love a
Absolutely.
fire truck.
And we're getting a network with all the other businesses in the area as well. So that's
And
invaluable
again, build
right
those
there.
relationships with them.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. That's what we
all
want.
Full circle.
All what we want.
So obviously you talked a little bit about some businesses having their own plans, unlike the camps. How can businesses be proactive in preparing for emergencies themselves?
Yeah. I think that just comes back to educating your staff, making sure that they know, stuff like CPR and first aid, because they're going to be that first response. Of course, always dial 911, but
Please do not.
but you're
Do not take it upon yourself.
yeah, your staff are going to be the first response if something were to happen in your place of business. So make sure they're educated. Of course, reach out to our office. We do stuff like that all the time, trainings. And,
What sort of trainings do you find that are most common that you see a lot of businesses taking advantage of, or
Probably-
groups taking advantage of?
probably the first aid, stop the bleed, CPR stuff.
Okay. That makes sense.
But then we also do like the weather preparedness. People just wanting to know. Don, he's all
I
things
love
weather,
Don.
so he will. He'll go and teach weather preparedness.
Don's great.
Yeah. And for our senior groups, they eat that up. So
Love that.
He knows his stuff. I love it when some Facebook meteorologist hops on and tries to tell us what the weather's going to be. And I'm like, so Don, what do you think?
is this true?
My favorite thing ever was one time he had said something about, like, in response to someone about, this is what we're seeing or anything. And the person who clearly did not know the situation was like, well, what would you know? You're not a meteorologist. And I was like, I don't think you know who you're talking to.
It's Dr. Don.
I know.
Dr. Don.
Like,
Listen, I'm for it. I love talking with Don about the drone and his chickens. I love it.
The drone.
Sorry, allergies.
Just the season.
I know. My gosh, this pollen. What's one thing that business owners might not realize about public safety and how that plays into our community's economic success?
So I think that having that strong public safety infrastructure is going to limit, your interruptions from fire, weather, crime, our law enforcement partners. So I think having that strong public safety presence in the community is going to, it's going to drive visitors. It's going to drive, potential developers,
Right.
because a community that's perceived safe is one that's going to attract those kind of
Exactly what I was going to say.
people. Yeah.
People only come where they feel safe, right?
And it's not just our office. We have our sheriff's partners, our PDs, and the city fire departments as well. It takes all of us. So.
So we've got a lot of outdoor recreation here. That's, I feel, the understatement of the century. So tell us a little bit about your most common search and rescue operations, because I know y'all have that.
So we joke and say our biggest landmark is also our biggest trouble child.
It is.
And that's the biggest issue, and that's Mount Yona.
She's cute.
Yeah. Well, so, and I don't think anybody realizes just how frequent those search and rescue operations are. And going into the summer here, that's your peak season for that. But
we do, because they stop here and want the address of Mount Yona. And
Or they call it like 3:30 and they're like, well, I think, how long does it take to hike Yona? I think we may start in a couple hours. And I'm like, don't do that.
don't be out
And
there.
don't do it in your flip-flops.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but our dispatch center gets those calls all the time for, people calling saying, hey, I've wandered off the trail, I don't know where I'm at, or it's getting dark, that kind of thing. And so in that case, we send Station 3, our shift supervisor, Captain 1, and then we call him Dawn Force 1.
Dawn Force 1.
I love it.
Our drone, UAS 1, that's, of course, piloted by Don Strength, our EMA division chief. But they'll all respond. And, I say Station 3, but here in a couple months, that'll be Station 9's first due. So they'll be the ones that respond.
Brand new fire station.
Yes, in the works. But, so Don has that drone, and that's instrumental in those responses because, sometimes our dispatch center can get coordinates from whoever calls, and he can fly straight to where they're at, confirm that they're there, and then our first responders can actually see on their phone and walk straight to where he's dropped that pin. So
Isn't that amazing?
yes, absolutely.
And that you guys added that access to text where people can text into 911. Amazing.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I didn't even know that was a thing, but I can see how very useful it is for our.
Yeah, people. Yeah, we don't push that a lot, but you can absolutely text 911. Anytime your Apple Watch does crash detection or fall detection, it comes in as a text. So, it becomes the issue when you're like up on Raven Cliffs or somewhere like that, and you don't have enough signal for us to get back to you. So, of course, we're going to send responders anyway, just to make sure that most likely was accidental. But if it wasn't, we're still there en route.
We would rather do a rescue and not a search, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
I'm Don Harris, president of United Community, and we're proud to present the Chamber's Business Block Party. Join us on May 8th at Freedom Park in Cleveland from 3 to 7 p.m. for an afternoon of lawn games, food vendors, inflatables, and over 50 local businesses coming together to kick off summer. Get all the details at whitecountychamber.org.
Tell us a little about the CERT team.
Oh yeah.
And how they help with that.
Yes, so our CERT team, I've got to brag about them.
I know,
they're
they're
pretty
so
awesome,
sweet.
and they do so much that we don't even realize. So, of course, everybody goes through that CERT basic training, and once they graduate, they can then specialize. So, like we have a search and rescue team that's under our CERT program. We have a debris, analysis debris. In behind storms, they'll go out and measure trees that are down and all that. And then they have the chainsaw strike team. So those two teams will run hand in hand, cleaning up after a storm while the others are, doing debris analysis and all that. But,
Tell everybody what CERT stands for.
Community Emergency Response Team.
Yeah.
So what that
all
is?
volunteers.
Yes. So it's all volunteers that they come and they go through the class, and then they do their specialty stuff, and they train constantly. I'm pretty sure that our search and rescue is like every Tuesday night they get together and do some type of training. Yeah, but we they're not only a White County resource. They've been deployed to Rabun, Union County, and all that. So they're really a regional asset that can be used.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So good. So what can businesses in tourism, because we have a lot of people coming up at 3:30 in the afternoon deciding to hike the mountain. So those businesses that are in the tourism and hospitality industry, how can they help visitors stay safe?
Yeah, so I think that comes back to, at least making sure that your staff know what to do in the event of emergency. Dial 911, of course, but, do the CPR, first aid, stop the bleed training. Make sure everybody's, up to date on that, or at least knows what to do. And then one thing, like we have a ton of, cabins, short-term rentals. you have the magnets on the fridge that has, of course, dial 911, but have your local EMA office, have your local sheriff's office or PD, display that information for people, especially in things like cabins or short-term rentals.
Where they might not interact with another person. That's a great point. Good
And
point.
stay situationally aware. I know we preach that, but just for you and your people, know what's going on, know what's coming, and on our Facebook page, we're always putting preparedness stuff ahead of events. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, you're doing great with social media and the text system. If you're a resident here or your business is here, you can sign up for text message alerts too, and that's been very helpful.
Yeah, that's our Code Red system. So that it automatically sends out a text on different like weather events. But then we also can go in and we can draw a circle around the map and say everybody in this area, let's send them a message. Say that's we have a dementia patient walk off, and we know they're going in this area. We can send a message just to those people. So it's not only for weather stuff; it helps us get in communication.
And I think that's great to be, like you were saying, to have as a resident or as an employee who works in a tourism business, anything like that, to be situationally aware, to use those resources. And that way, if you're, I don't know, working at a retailer and you hear some people who are clearly tourists talking about they're going to have a bonfire tonight, and like how y'all had sending out the text messages a couple weeks ago of, hey, red flag, don't do that. But maybe they're not paying attention to be able to say, hey, sorry, I know that y'all are visiting, but I just wanted to let you know, that we've got this going on. And so I think that, that's one way that especially our people, if they're connected with y'all and being aware of all the things that y'all are alerting people about, they can in turn let tourists know who would, if I'm traveling somewhere, what's the likelihood of me liking the public safety page of the place I'm visiting, But for those employees to be able to relay that information is just awesome.
Yep, and you can sign up for Code Red alerts by texting white CO alerts to 99411. So it's just white CO alerts to 99411.
So all of you do it. The number is flashing on the screen. Okay, go ahead and do it. Like an infomercial up in here.
Well, and we also have our Logan's List program. We kind of run those side by side, but Logan's List is it's an online form that you can fill out, and you can submit everything from gate codes to house descriptions to where your kids' bedrooms are located within your house. That becomes useful in a fire. But you can do like medication list, medical conditions. You can submit all that through there, and what that does is it goes straight to our dispatch center, and so it's then tagged to your address. So when we get a call at your address, dispatch gets an alert on their screen that says, hey, we have information, and they can then feed that to first responders while they're en route.
So is this for businesses too? Like our businesses could do this?
Yes, it can be for businesses or residents. Businesses, of course, you'd put things like security codes, or key holders, emergency contacts, gate codes if there's a gate.
That's great. How would they do that if they want to get that information?
Yes, so you can go to our public safety site on the county website, and it's linked on there, or I think you can go to whitecounty-loganslist.com.
Oh, okay.
Whitecounty-loganslist.com.
That's a great resource for for our businesses to be able to
and
give all that information.
That was actually a state incentive that was just meant for kids with special needs, but we of course expanded upon that, and so it's anybody that wants to submit medication list, medical conditions. That way, in the event that you're not able to communicate with us or tell us what's really going on in an emergency, we have some background information on
That's vitally important.
Yes.
Very good. Is the next one there?
Oh, this is me. Sorry.
Oh, this one's a doozy.
What is one action that you think every business in White County should take to be better prepared for an emergency?
Well,
he's like, just
one?
No.
Say it again. It's okay.
Like I said, educate your people, but have a plan, let that be a written plan, something that you could, turn into our office and we keep on file, or, hand over to the first responders when they arrive. So, have that plan, communicate that plan. Make sure our dispatch center, through things like Logan's List, has information on your key holders, your emergency contacts, even things like where your AED is located in the building.
Right,
because somebody might call and say, "Hey, I'm here," but they don't see an employee or anybody that would know those things.
Yeah.
And then of course we have businesses with hazardous materials that report to us as well. So all that kind of thing. Have your plan, communicate your plan.
Very good. One of my favorite things about White County is we're so collaborative. And I was hoping you might speak about the broader disaster preparedness plan that your office helps coordinate. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so we actually are going through the renewal and updating of our hazard mitigation plan. And what that does is we include all stakeholders, whether that's school system, Chamber of Commerce, both the cities are represented. And we have public meetings where everybody comes together, and in the hazard mitigation plan we say, well, here's the issues that we see, and here's how we're going to combat those issues, and going forward, what are we going to do? So it's really an opportunity for, like I said, all stakeholders to come together. You may see an issue that we don't see, or somebody in the city of Helen might see a different issue that we may not be that aware of. So that gives us the opportunity to collaborate. And then we worked alongside a consultant this time, and she formulates that plan, and it's everything from, like, one of the initiatives was going to be the weather radios. That was an initiative that has now come to fruition
already.
Yes.
I mean, we just
of course, that was a previous plan, not this plan.
Oh, okay.
But
I was like, we just talked about that one 2 weeks ago.
You know how long grants take in funding, but that's just our hazard mitigation plan's a great opportunity for everybody to come together, and they feed us lunch, which is always good. So.
We do that. We do best way to solve a problem is over some chicken.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
Chick-fil-A or Zaxby's.
We have to ask you the most important question.
Yes, we failed.
It's not the most important question, but we always ask on Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks, what is your go-to coffee order?
Well, I failed to get by scooters this morning.
You didn't scoot on around?
Not this morning. Hey, I still got to go back by there and go to the office.
On the way. There's
still a chance. But what do I get? Okay, so I'll get a sugar-free caramel latte.
Okay.
Is what I'll.
Caramelicious.
Yes.
Love
and they have they have the sugar-free caramel flavor, and then they have the.
It's different.
Yeah, there's two different.
I thought a
ones.
Caramelicious was a caramel latte.
They always ask me, and I'm like, no, just the flavoring. It doesn't have to be.
This is brand new information.
Listen, they make 1,000 different drinks.
I am floored.
As two people who have worked at scooters
for one day.
Hey,
that's
put
some
that
hard
on your
work. Like barista's really hard. Remembering what people want and how to make it. And
How many? We were talking
Props
about
to
this
you guys.
before we started recording, but we were talking about how much coffee y'all drink as office and stuff.
Yeah.
So how many coffees a day do you think you have? Not necessarily scooters, but how many cups of coffee a day
that's a
do you
tough
have?
one. Well, we have Miss Laverne in the office.
I know, we love her. She's so
yes,
sweet.
she keeps track of all of us, make sure our coffee stays stocked up, so our K-cups. But we have people stop in our office for cups of coffee, same as y'all do.
Yep.
We just don't offer the snacks like y'all do. So.
It's just we're hospitable people.
Exactly.
It's just what we are.
Yeah.
I don't apologize for that. Well, awesome. Well, Bryce, thank you so much for helping us figure out what we're going to do before we need to figure out what we're going to do.
Yes. Well, thank y'all for having me. Like I said, this has been a fun opportunity. This is definitely the first podcast I've done.
Well, we can make sure that you attend more.
Yes.
Well, thanks guys for joining us on Coffee Break with your Chamber Chicks. We're your favorite Chamber Chicks,
The White County Chamber Chicks.
In case you forgot. I mean, we remind you every 2 weeks, but in case you forgot, so you know. And we're going to catch you next time. We will see you, love you, bye.
See you, love you, bye.